Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a video special with the Pasadena Roof Orchestra. Something a bit different on Saturday nights. Hope you're all having a nice weekend, and you've got a glass of something. What we're going to do is have a bit of a chat with. We've got Duncan, as you can see, the band leader and lead vocalists. Hi, Duncan.
Hello. Good evening,
Hello.
everybody. Yes.
Hello, and we've also got Simon, the pianist and arranger from the Pasadena Roof Orchestra. Hi, Simon.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Simon. And finally, Robert. We've got Robert, the clarinet and saxophonist from the Pasadena Roof Orchestra. Hi, Robert.
Hello.
Hello. Great. Okay. So but before we get to it, we've got some questions, and we've also got a few questions from some fans as well. So we're going to do those. But anyone watching, you can also ask a question using the live chat as well. So if you're logged into YouTube, on the right hand side, I think there's a live chat box where you can ask questions. I will see them come in, and I will put them to Duncan, Simon, or Robert for you. So please do that during the first part of the show. So let's start with Duncan. The Kickstarter campaign. Can you just let us know the latest? What's the latest?
I'm glad you mentioned that. We're at £12,439 with 162 backers. So we're effectively just under 80% of our target. The crucial thing being that there's 9 days to go. So yeah, we've got just over 20% of our target left, and I'm hoping we're going to make that, because with Kickstarter, it pains to point this out, it's all or nothing. So I'm very much hoping that we'll get a big spurt in the next couple of days or whatever, to just get us over the line, which would be rather nice, just to sort of help planning as much as anything else. Once it's sort of in the bag, once we cross the line, then we know we've got the funding complete. So it'd be very nice if anyone's thinking of making a donation, or one of the wonderful awards on the Kickstarter site. You can see them all there: vinyl edition of the new album, downloads, a morning in the Cotswolds with Spatz in his Morgan 1932 Morgan car. Lots of various things which might take your interest if you'd like to help support the orchestra.
Excellent. And did you say 9 days left? So this is the final push,
9 days,
really, isn't it?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, it finishes. Well, it finishes on Tuesday morning. Bit of bad planning there. Sorry about that. But the campaign was launched at 8:30 in the morning. I get up early these days. So
well, that's
effectively
9:30. 9:30 in Germany.
Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, it was 9:30. Okay, yeah. Okay. You've got me there. I know. Wasn't that impressive, but effectively 8:30 on Tuesday morning is when it finishes. So yeah.
Great. And then so the whole point of this campaign is for a new album. So have you decided on the tracks for the album, or is that sort of an ongoing thing, or
It's sort of ongoing in that we hope to all meet a few days before we actually go in the studio, just to sort of finalize the list. I've obviously got one. There's quite a few numbers that we haven't actually yet recorded that we've been playing in concerts. Several spring to mind: South Rampart Street Parade. I've got a list kind of thing, but there's plenty that haven't been recorded yet. So I'm hoping that we've got an album of completely new material for the band.
Oh, that's
amazing.
Plus,
there will be maybe some oldies there as well. That if I find one, or someone comes up with an idea of one that hasn't been recorded, for example, for a long time, then it might be well worth considering it on.
And what about the Brother Can You Spare a Dime single that we released?
Well,
is that going to be on the new album, or is that something different?
I think so. Yeah. Again, I might have a chat with the boys about it. Let's see what everyone thinks. But I think it's strong enough to actually be on the album. I was amazed at the result we got online actually recording it.
Yeah. No, it sounded brilliant. I mean, and people were amazed, I think, that we managed to do it remotely, which is how it was done. Everyone did their own parts. No, it's really impressive, really impressive. So moving on to a question about arrangements, really. So I better come to you, Simon, as the expert on that one. And it's what's the difference between the 20s and the 30s in terms of arrangements? Is there a big difference?
I think throughout the period that we're dealing with, the sort of essential development is that in the 20s things didn't really swing. The swing era didn't really begin until sort of halfway through the 1930s, but everything is sort of very gently tending more and more towards swing as you get more and more into the 1930s. So at the start of the 1920s, you've got to remember it's some of the things that we do are written either just after or even during the First World War. So it's a very old world. And you have sousaphones and banjos would be the essential difference that you have. Generally in the 1920s, you had smaller bands, you had fewer people. And then in the 1930s, what happened was the bands got bigger as recording got better, and just the music industry kind of exploded anyway. The bands got bigger, and you got basses and guitars instead of sousaphones and banjos, and everything just starts to swing a bit more. So Benny Goodman, that's definitely a 1930s sound. Somebody like Jelly Roll Morton or some of the early Louis Armstrong stuff is very firmly in the 20s style. But it's a gradual, it's not like on, January the 1st, 1930, everyone sort of said, right, it's the 1930s now, we're going to do everything differently. It's a sort of gradual thing. You can sometimes see in a number from the 1920s that they're starting to find their way towards the style that we think of as swing music.
I guess we like to categorize our music, don't we, into decades. I mean, it's not just the 20s and the 30s. People do it with the 70s and the 80s as well. So I guess it's just a classification thing, isn't it? But
yeah,
no,
that
makes sense how it changed over the years. Okay, when we talk about transcripts and stock arrangements, what's the difference there? What's the difference between an arrangement that, say, you would do or Adrian would do for the band, and then the stock arrangements that are the originals?
Nothing in particular, except nothing sort of specific. The stock arrangements, I think people have a funny idea about stock arrangements because this band, as you know, started with a great big pile of stock arrangements that John Arthey, we always say John Arthey found them in an attic in Manchester, but he put an advert in and a lady answered it and said, my late husband was a band leader, I've got thousands of them, and he bought them from her. And they were mostly of the stock kind. The stock doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them. It just means that the publishing company had them in stock. That's what it means. And they would sell them to promote their song, and because the only way that people were going to hear a song was if a live band played it, and there were all these dances going on all over the world where there were little bands playing. A stock arrangement can be less imaginative than an original arrangement because a stock arrangement has to be workable for like a 5-piece band or a 12-piece band, and everything has to be written on the piano part in case some of the other orchestra members don't turn up. And then quite often you get like the second alto part is the same as the second trumpet part, on the understanding that you've possibly only got one in your small band in, small town somewhere. But what a lot of the bands who were famous name bands used to do in the period was they would buy stock arrangements exactly the same as everybody else, and then they would make them special by putting in like a 4-bar intro of their own, or putting in a bridge passage of their own, or putting a very hot chorus at the end. Sometimes where the stock arrangement had a chorus where the band just played the tune, the name band, the Hilton Orchestra or the whoever, would give that chorus to a soloist to do a solo over the top of. So they actually sort of cannibalized the stocks and made them their own. And if you listen to a lot of the records, you can sort of recognize some of the stocks that we play being done maybe 2 or 3 different ways by different bands. And fans of those bands, I guess, at the time would have argued about whose approach was better. But an arrangement that was originally done for one of the original jazz dance orchestras at the time would have been specifically written for that group of players. So it's likely to be more ambitious. It's likely to have you know, a little bit more. It would be only written for the professional players to play, so the standard of what they could write would be a little bit more, yeah, ambitious would be the right word. And so what Adrian does brilliantly, what I do myself, and what other arrangers for the band have done over the years is listen to the record of the famous band playing it and try and work out what they've done and write that down. Sometimes you have to adapt it to the Pasadena Roof Orchestra, because sometimes you're taking something from 18 players and trying to make it work for 10 players. Or equally, it works the other way. You might take something which was done with a small group of maybe only 8 players, and you find something for the other 2 chaps to do. Otherwise, they'll get bored sitting there twiddling their thumbs. But it's all kind of, again, it's a bit like the 20s 30s discussion. There isn't this kind of like, there isn't a sort of massive difference between one or the other. They're just different ways of approaching the same thing.
Okay. And those stocks then, those original stocks, were they sold or were they given away, or?
I think they were sold. I'm
sold.
fairly certain. If a song,
They were on subscription, weren't they? I think a lot of the time. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that absolutely.
But you could subscribe.
If you were running a band, yes, you would. If you were running a band, you would certainly want to have the latest ones, and the publishers would be mailing them out to you as soon as they came in. Yeah, subscription would work. But of course, there were the sheet music salesmen as well, like Bob Hoskins in Pennies from Heaven. There was a whole industry of people trying to get the sheet music out to people and trying to get the arrangements out to the band leaders. And the publishers had teams of in-house arrangers whose job it was to, as soon as a new song came out or there was a new hit, to get versions out for people so that they could play it themselves. And you see a lot of the same names of the same arrangers cropping up time and time again. And I mean, those guys must have been at work, 8-hour days, sitting there with a pencil, scratching away on the paper.
Do you think they made much? Did they make much money? Was
it
a profitable enterprise, do you think?
I have absolutely no idea. I suspect probably not. No,
I'm guessing
without
not.
Without wishing to get the violin out, but music arranging. If anybody wants to be wealthy, if you want to be a wealthy person in life, music arranging is not the avenue to go down. If you want to have a lot of fun and then it's a great thing to do. I'm sure they were comfortable. I'm sure it was a steady job, but I doubt very much whether they were rich people.
Okay.
Arrangers generally aren't. It's weird that. And band leaders are. Historically, I mean, Duncan. Historically.
There we go. A bit of careers advice as well. So we didn't expect that, did we, in this video? Okay. Next question. It's about what's everyone been getting up to, I think, because I think a lot of the fans are interested. Obviously, it's been really tricky for you guys as musicians. Your life has changed overnight with this situation, unfortunately. So really, I'm going to come to you, Robert. What have you been doing since the lockdown started instead of music?
Well, I've been trying to do trying to keep busy generally. I've rediscovered a passion for drawing and painting, actually. So I've done quite a lot of that. I did do a YouTube jazz quiz with some friends called Jazz Lockdown, which is available to watch back episodes of that on Facebook, I think.
So you were doing music for that, were you? Or
it was just a quiz, actually. It's a bit like this, but Alan Shipton from Radio 3 was asking the questions, and I was trying to answer them. Not very well. There's 4 of us on the show, and I managed to come 4th. So,
well, it's impressive.
About jazz, but there you go. Well, no, the main thing I've been doing is, I've been going on lots of walks and stuff like that, but really got back into drawing and art.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's go on. Sorry.
I haven't forgotten about music. Initially, it was quite nice to have a break from all the travelling and playing the saxophone. But yeah, sort of ready to come back now.
Yeah, you're ready to go again. Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely know how that feels. Okay, what about Simon? What have you been up to during
Well,
lockdown?
Yes, I have been growing this magnificent beard, so that I now look like Gandalf's brother, the tramp. But I will shave it off as soon as we get to do another gig. I promise. I can't wait now. I'm a bit like Robert. At first, it was all like, yes, this is a nice opportunity not to do very much, but now it's getting a bit silly. It would just be nice to go out and play music together. I've been doing choirs online. Don't laugh, because in real life I conduct a couple of choirs, and one way or another with all the choirs that I conduct, we've been doing rehearsals and coffee mornings and singing on Zoom, which doesn't really work. You have to mute everybody, because if everybody sings, as I'm sure everybody knows, if you all sing at the same time, the internet scrambles it so that it just sounds like a complete cacophony. So what we essentially have is we have 50 or 60 people all standing in their kitchens singing to themselves with headphones on or just on their laptops with a backing track going, and me playing my piano or teaching them the notes. And it's weird. At first, I think we all thought it was completely rubbish, and then we thought, yes, but it's better than nothing, and it's nice to see people, and now we're all getting quite good at it. But again, with that, it would just be so nice to get everybody back in a room and make a noise together. And it would be nice to try out some of the stuff we've been allegedly rehearsing and find out what people have made of it, because it might sound like hell warmed up,
And what about you, Duncan? What have you been doing since lockdown? You've probably mentioned a few things in your Facebook lives, but
I might have mentioned the
it's a whole new audience.
books.
It's a whole new audience.
Yeah. I did well. I had done voiceovers like a long time ago and things like that, but I decided to sort of get au fait with the working with internet files and having essentially a home studio, which you really need to be able to do. So I was kind of I got involved with that really in March, and I was a bit like Simon and Robert. I think sort of in March it was rather nice, bit of a novelty not to be traveling anywhere and doing concerts. And I thought, well, maybe September we'll get back to doing something. And of course, it doesn't seem to be that it's going to be anywhere near September that we get back to work, or apart from the album as such. But so I've been doing a lot of that. I've got 4, but I'm working on a 5th one now, which is a sort of Napoleonic War history. I've been playing a bit of golf. My handicap's come down, which is good.
Wow.
But that's it really, and yeah, just sort of
And how is
I've appreciated it. I've appreciated it, but
sorry, I was just going to say, how's life in Berlin? Because obviously you're in Berlin and we're all in the UK. Most of us, probably not all of us. But so how is Berlin faring? What's life like?
It's all right. I mean, I think it was less. It was less threatened, shall we say, by the outbreak of the pandemic. In that it wasn't. It wasn't. What's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't. The health system wasn't under such a strain, or it wasn't quite so precarious. Although they had quite stringent lockdown, but it soon got lifted. I think sort of really by the end of, or rather middle of May, they were starting to sort of ease conditions of the lockdown. And although not strangely enough, but last week there was a big demo against the restrictions that are still in place. There's still a lot of people that wanted to go out and protest in Berlin because they thought that the restrictions are against their human rights, etc., etc. So it's still, it's not at ease with itself, I'd say. But I mean, it's okay. As I say, I don't think it was quite as precarious, judging from the headlines that I could see, as it was in the UK.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right. We were looking to Germany for sort of as how it could be done. I think at first, because you seem to be handling it quite well. But anyway, rather than going down that route, we're here to talk about the band. So I'd like to ask you all your proudest moment so far. Obviously, could still be one in the future, but your proudest moment so far in the band, or that you've been involved with. So perhaps Robert, I'll come to you first on that one.
Okay. Well, apart from this one,
Apart from this video, yeah, of course.
actually, I've got to go way back to when I first joined the band. It was 1986.
You don't look old enough.
Thank you. I was just pausing there for someone to say that. But, yeah, I've been a sort of I was a student at art school, and I'd always carried on playing the saxophone throughout my studies, and just as an amateur, really. And then, my number was passed on to somebody who then passed it on to somebody else, who then passed it on to the PRO, and I was asked to audition, and I think I felt really proud when one of the first gigs I did was actually at the Barbican Centre.
Wow! Yeah,
my parents came up on the train from Bristol to see me play at the Barbican, having just seen me playing pubs in Bristol basically before that. So that was quite a proud moment, I think.
So that was one of your first gigs with the band, was it?
It was, yeah. I'd done 3 audition dates, and then I think we did a couple of gigs up in Harrogate. And then about a week later, I think I joined the band in September of '86, and it was probably about then that we did the Barbican. We used to do it every year, in fact. So yeah, that was an amazing place to play. Never been there before, and yeah, it was pretty much sold out. I think it was nice to know Mum and Dad were there, and
it's amazing. No, it's an iconic venue, isn't it? It really is. I mean,
it is. Yeah,
absolutely. When you drive round it. What about you, Simon? Proudest moment with the PRO?
Oh, lots of them. Lots of them. I think any time we play in one of those brilliant concert halls, I can think of the Musicala in Hamburg would stand out. But there are others around the world and around Europe that we've played in some most fantastic, prestigious, concert halls and theatres. And every time, sometimes you're on the stage at one of those, you just sort of look around and you think, this is fantastic that we've been able to do our kind of nonsense, bring our kind of, to bring our music and our humor and stuff to a place like this. And I think it's really great. I love it when I'm allowed to go into big concert halls and play the big grand pianos that somebody played Rachmaninoff concerto on the night before, and I get to muck about on it. I enjoy that a lot. I get a kick out of that.
So have you got a favourite venue that you've been to, or a sort of most prestigious venue that you can remember playing in?
Well, no, I couldn't. I was trying to do that in my head while Robert was talking. I was trying to sort of organise the top 10 of places we played. There are some pretty amazing places. You name a country, we've pretty much played in their top concert halls. We've been to the Palau de la Musica in Barcelona, and the Sibelius Hall in Helsinki, and as I say, the one in the Munich. I think we've played the Prince Regenten Theater in Munich is very special. I love that building. It's absolutely enormous, and very idiosyncratic, but it's a beautiful place to play, a lovely place to work. And a nice, I'm biased, you see, because I love the places we go where there's a really nice piano.
That always helps. I think. I mean, we are very fortunate. Since I've been involved, we've played in some great venues in Germany. I mean, there's too many to mention, but that one in Hamburg has really got something about it. I think that Leishalle. Every now and again, I think I follow them on Instagram or Twitter or something, and every now and again they put a photo up of the building or the stage, and you look at it and you go, "Wow, it's pretty special."
Yeah. That's got my favourite dressing room as well, the Hamburg one, because they've got a Steinway piano in the dressing room in case you fancied practicing before you go on. And I think, yes, I want this everywhere.
Is that not on your rider, Simon?
Yeah. How many jobs would I get then? Yeah.
I remember, sorry to bust in, I remember playing the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam with the band, very early days, when just not long after I joined as well. And you're saying about you want that Steinway everywhere. I remember the night after us was Horowitz. He was on.
Wow.
He used to come with his own piano. So the piano that we sort of like, Mike Holmes was the piano player at the time. He sort of bashed the living daylights out of it. And they took that one away and delivered Horowitz's piano.
It was a shame that Mike wasn't there to see Horowitz do his rehearsal, you know, walking up behind him. You call that a left hand? I'll show you a left hand. That'd be the way to do it.
Okay, Duncan, what about you? Proudest moment with the band?
Well, I'd certainly echo, Simon's comments about some of the nice theatres that we played at. When I was thinking about that, it was actually on a people side of it rather than the venue side. Although the venue was quite rather special as well. But I do remember a few years back now at the Imperial War Museum, they had they were opening an exhibition of women at war, and two very special women were at that opening, namely Her Majesty the Queen and Dame Vera Lynn. Got to meet her personally as well, which was that was kind of one of those moments where I think this job ain't bad, having that opportunity to meet them and
in the same day. Did you meet them both in the same day?
In the same day, yeah, two great ladies.
I remember
that.
Yeah. I remember that. And Dame Vera, dear Dame Vera, she came up and said hello to everybody, didn't she? She was really nice. She was lovely. We were playing on a kind of balcony thing, and she came up and said hello and introduced herself as if we didn't know who she was. The Queen didn't come up for a chat. That was a shame, but there you are.
She probably knew who you were, Okay, so from that nice question about all the things we're proud of, what about some disasters? Because you know that people watching, some people like to hear about the other side of things when things don't go right. So can you remember any disasters? Simon, I might come to you first on this one.
Well, I do remember the famous disaster where you didn't get to the gig. Was that the one you were thinking of, where we were supposed to be at Gawsworth Hall in Macclesfield, and the band was coming back from somewhere, except due to an airline being incompetent, the band wasn't coming back from somewhere. Because I do remember that I wasn't away with the band that day where you'd been the previous night, so I was driving up to
I do.
I remember,
Macclesfield, and I was getting phone calls from Duncan saying, we're getting later. Just when you get there, tell them we're on our way. And I'd sort of gone all the way up the M1 and the N6 from my place and got to the road junction just to turn off to go to the gig. And I was quite nervous about it. I was thinking, I'm going to walk in there and they're going to say, where is everybody? And I was going to say, don't worry, they'll be here and we'll do what we can. And thinking that if it's just me and my little electric piano, there's not a lot I can do. And it's maybe not going to be the world's best concert if they insist that I go ahead and give it, And then at that point, Duncan phoned up to say that the flight that you were supposed to be on had been put back even further and you weren't going to make it. And so I kind of literally came off the motorway one side, went down over the motorway the other side and drove all the way back home again. And
I remember that one.
Really a disaster.
Is that the only one, Duncan, that we've had to cancel in your time?
It is certainly, as far as I can remember. I think there might have been one before my time, but I do remember just one fatal moment because it was a tightish schedule. I mean, it shouldn't have been a problem, but anytime you're in. Where were we? Was it Switzerland or somewhere? We were flying, and we were flying back that morning, basically. But I do remember because we got as far as queuing in the line to board the plane, and I do remember thinking, "Well, good, thank goodness that's all gone." Because normally, you get a notification of a delay or something like that, or if the weather's bad or anything like that. But I say we were just about to get to board the plane. and after sort of like 20 minutes of just standing there in the queue, obviously realised something was wrong. But I did make that fatal mistake of thinking once I was in the queue, started to queue, that everything was going to be all right. And of course, it wasn't. It's the first time I can ever remember the band not actually making an engagement. It's been pretty tight sometimes.
When we do what was it, 80, 90 concerts a year, to not have missed one in 20 years or whatever is a pretty good record, isn't it? So that feels to me like a good disaster. What about you, Robert? Have you got one?
One thing. I will share with you one thing. You know, people have anxiety dreams. I'm sure everybody has anxiety dreams. The famous ones are where you're running for a bus and you can't catch it, or you're giving a presentation to a room full of people, but you've forgotten to put your trousers on. These are sort of famous cases. Anytime I wake up in a cold sweat and I've been having an anxiety dream and I can remember it, it's always connected with desperately trying to get to a gig and running late and not being able to get to the gig. It's my whole, and I think we're probably all quite similar in that it is consuming this fear of, when you look at some of the places we go and some of the distances we cover in short spaces of time, whether together or under our own steam, I think it's amazing that, as you say, for all those years, 99.99999% of the time, everybody actually makes it and it all actually happens. But all my anxieties, all my things that I don't think about during the daytime that come out in the dark are all connected with that.
Maybe the fear is what gets us there on time. What about you, Robert? Have you got any disasters you can remember?
No, but there was something happened before my time, actually, when the band were in south of Germany, somewhere, Munich, I think, and they had a gig the next day in the north. I think it may well have been Bremen or Bremerhaven, one of those. And John Artney happened to look at the contract, and then the awful truth dawned on him that the following day was a lunchtime gig starting at 12 o'clock. Of course, everybody wanted to do the concert, go to the pub and stagger back to the hotel, but they had to get straight back on the bus and motor. I think they made it. But we did I think, Simon, you were on this, when we went to, we had a flight cancelled. We were flying to Valencia via Madrid, and our connection. Do you remember going to Valencia?
Oh, yeah. I do. I remember it well.
And it wasn't really a disaster. It was just that we had to get on a train, got to Valencia, and then we were due to go on stage at 9 o'clock or something like that. But there was a guy on in front of us, and of course, Spain being quite sort of laid back, nothing really ever goes to time. And I think we ended up going on stage about 3 a.m.
Oh. Luckily, you hadn't been drinking at all, though, so you were probably okay.
I know. I mean, we played 2 numbers, and that was it. We sort of,
I remember. Yeah, and I remember a couple of epic retreats from Ireland. We came back from Dublin one time, and it was snowing so heavily that there were no flights. So we made a.
Oh, that was the overnight ferry trip.
We made a detour to the port and got on a ferry in the middle of the night, and then we got to Holyhead, in the top of Anglesey, and we had to wait for the train. And we all were standing around in the station for about 3 hours, not just us, but a whole lot of people who'd got off this ferry. It was freezing. I mean, it was way below zero and snow coming down. We're all standing around at the station waiting for this train that left at something like 5 a.m. But we got, and then we had a gig the next day somewhere else. So we had to get home, get in the shower, get out again, and off we went to Grantham or somewhere. And there was another one where we went all the way to the west of Ireland. To do a gig at a beautiful hotel, and we played for somebody's golden wedding or somebody's anniversary, and it was a beautiful hotel, and we all had rooms, and it was like 5-star. And after the gig, it was going to be the Irish welcome, the food, the drink, help yourself, stay up all night. And there was this disastrous sort of storm coming up the Irish Sea, and they were going to cancel all the boats sort of like from 18 hours ahead. So for those of us who had to get back, it was like, well, I'm really sorry, chaps, but the only way we're going to do this is if we leave now. So we literally finished the gig, got back in the van, drove all the way back across Ireland, all the way back across the Irish Sea just before the ferries had to stop running. And then, that was and we didn't get to lay a head on the beautiful pillow.
That's the
glamorous dressing gown.
Oh.
Okay, so we've got some questions from some of the viewers, some of the fans. Firstly, a question from Bob Morrissey. So Bob says,
Hello,
"Evening,
Bob.
Chaps. Hope you've all survived the virus
Hello,
and
Bob.
your families are safe. I was wondering, during those agonising times of early lockdown, have you increased the amount of practicing as the live performances have dwindled, so time on your horns will have reduced? Just wondering if practicing time has it increased or decreased during lockdown." So Robert, let's ask you that one.
What you have to realise is that I didn't really do much practice before lockdown.
So about
No, I've been very conscious about the fact we might be doing an album soon.
Yeah.
So of course, if you don't, you're blowing a wind instrument of any kind or a brass instrument, then you can easily lose stamina. So I have got the saxophone out from time to time.
It must be in your life. It must be like the longest period you've had without kind of.
It is,
playing,
yeah. Actually,
out. Yeah.
No, yeah. So, like I said before, at the beginning, I was happy to not touch it. The case was firmly shut for a few weeks, and I thought, well, I better get it out, see if I can still make it work. So yeah, but I wouldn't say my practice regime has gone up massively. To be honest.
What about you, Simon? Do you practice more now, less?
No, about the same. About the same, I would say. I've been playing duets with my son, who's practicing the piano a lot himself. So we've just been sitting there annoying each other by arguing about whose turn it is to turn the page, and would you get off that C because I need to get on it now, and all that sort of stuff. So we've been playing piano duets together, which is nice because that is it practically when it comes to making music with other people. That is what I have done. So it's just so nice to do that. I think practicing is one thing, but making music with people is what it's all about. And it would be really, really nice to do that again, or it will be really, really nice to do that again. I'm sure we will.
It will be, absolutely. Okay, well,
Duncan, have you been warming the tonsils up? You've been doing your vocal warm up.
Well,
tap dancing. Have you been practicing the tap dancing? Or?
I must sort of preface this answer with the same as Robert. My sort of practice regime wasn't exactly strict. I mean, if it's horses for courses, but I mean, if I was singing opera or something like that, I dare say I would need to sort of do a few scales here and there and keep the voice in tone. Although, funny enough, yeah, I mean, I have been using the voice as far as in my home studio, but no, I mean, I'm fortunate. Singing or crooning as I do, it doesn't involve necessarily a lot of scales, practicing, anything like that. The thing I miss is the same as Simon, is actually just making music with people. That creative process has just sort of been on hold really since March, and it's high time that it stopped.
Yeah, I think that's a theme, isn't it? We keep coming back to, but for obvious reasons, really. Okay. Catherine Rowe has got a question. I think you could probably all give an answer to this. It might sort of reflect on some of the things we've already been talking about. She says, I've just been listening to Live from London. What is it that you miss most about live performances? So Duncan, what about you first on that one?
Well, it's that really, just what I was saying about making music with people, and the whole thing about live performance is that it's it has a certain suspense, if you like, in that you're never quite sure of what's going to happen, what the audience is going to be like, whether they're going to sort of like the show or like what you do. That whole process, if you like, the creative process, the entertaining process, I miss that basically.
Almost like an adrenaline.
Yeah, I guess it's as such. Yeah, you could call it. It is adrenaline. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What about you, Simon? Is it the adrenaline you missed, or
everything that Duncan said, and
sandwiches?
Funnily enough, I don't miss the curly sandwiches. I don't miss the drafty dressing rooms, but I do miss not knowing what people are going to do next. The one thing about the the Pasadena Roof Orchestra is, it may seem as though it runs on tram lines, and a lot of the time it does, but there's a lot of spontaneity involved in everything that we do. If you're accompanying someone who's doing a solo, or if someone's playing a cadenza at the end of something, or if Duncan is doing a bit where it's suddenly we're following the vocal, it's always slightly different. There's always people. The great thing about the bunch of people that we have is that there's a whole load of people who are prepared to take quite ludicrous risks and get away with it, or most of the time. And it's just that lovely feeling of not knowing quite what's going to happen next. And oh, is he going to go for that? Oh, is he going to do that? Oh my goodness me, he's done it. Yes. And you're listening at the same time as you're performing, which is again, it's just the key to making music live, is that it's far more about listening to everybody else and listening to what's going on than it is about making your own noise. And it's, for all that you can sit in a room on your own and make all the noise you want, it's sort of interacting with other people and,
No, I see
enjoying the risks they take and the spontaneity that they bring.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've been with the band for a few years now, and obviously I've seen the show more than once. And but what does amaze me is that you're right. Every show is just slightly different to every other show. There is that kind of unique immediacy to when you're watching a show, and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to do what, or what's, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, and that it's really it's good to see. I love that about the band as well.
And Duncan is right too to say that a lot of that comes from the audience as well, because it depends what the audience is like. But the audience, if they bring their own energy to it, and some audiences make you want to do better for them and make you want to try harder. Some audiences don't. We've played to some, but most of the time the audience bring their energy as well, so that by the end of the evening you end up in a completely different place from where you started, and that's just a lovely thing to be part of.
What about you, Robert? Anything you miss, or what do you miss most?
No, I'd go along with all of what Simon and Duncan have said. I mean, that there is that excitement of interacting with the people you're on stage with. Because even if you're playing a tune or an arrangement you've been playing for 20, 30 years or something, you just never quite know what's going to happen. So it's just the excitement of being in that very moment, which you can't recreate in your bedroom.
That's the joy of a live performance. Absolutely. Okay, so we've got a few more questions. I'm conscious we've been talking now for 43 minutes. So we've got a few questions just to finish with. James Fraser has got a question. I think this is probably one for Simon, looking at the question. So he says, he asked Duncan, but he says, will the new recording sound different if all the brass and horns are played through lockdown beards?
I genuinely am not the right person to answer that, James.
I think that's one for Torsten, really. We'll have to get Torsten to get his beard monitor out, for want of a better word. Don't know, but no, I think we'll be all right on that count. I have got one for you here, Simon, from Jennifer Fraser. Hello, Simon. Best and worst pianos you've played with the PRO. Let's not name the worst. How
long have we got? I know you said
I said about 40 minutes.
This could be the next hour and a half. There was a piano that I absolutely loved, which was in the Basement Jazz Club in Freiburg. Do you remember that? It was near the station, and it was not the world's most beautiful room. It was like a concrete bunker, really. But they had, in the bottom of that, they had a Bosendorfer, sort of 12-foot long Bosendorfer. Bosendorfers have the extra notes at the bottom that Steinways don't have. They have a couple of extra notes that go down further. You're not meant to play them, of course. I always do, because they make sounds like the bell of Big Ben falling and cracking as it goes down the tower. It's a monstrous noise. What the bottom two strings are supposed to do is to give extra warmth and resonance and power to the rest of the notes on the piano, because they're there vibrating even when you're not playing them. And that's how it works. And this was just the most beautiful piano. I mean, I am not the world's greatest piano player by any stretch, but playing that piano, you could take a solo on that or play a number on that, and it would just sound lovely, and it always made me feel better than I am, which is a lovely feeling. There are an awful lot of pianos that, you know, I mean, the worst pianos
Make
I've
you
played
feel
with
worse than you are.
apart from the one that we carry around on the van. No, that's not even the worst by any stretch. Anytime I have to play an electric piano, I hate it.
No, I thought you'd say that. Yeah.
And well, not because I'm not
Doesn't
because I'm a
sound-
snob, but it's just not right for the music. The piano is a percussion instrument, and the piano in this band is part of the rhythm section. And if you have an electric piano, there is no percussive element to the sound. All that you get is the notes. You don't get any of the. So it's very frustrating if you wanted to try and drive the band on by helping the rhythm section out and drive it forwards, you can't do it because all you end up doing is making more of a distorted noise. It's just wrong. But it's obviously a compromise that we have to live with in the modern world sometimes, when a venue that we go to, or a marquee that we go to, or a village hall, or whatever, wherever it might be, when they haven't gone to the trouble and expense of getting a 12-foot Bosendorfer for me, or a Steinway, you know, we have to sort of forgive them and muddle through. But I love it when we get some of these gorgeous pianos.
Yeah, no, they're very impressive, aren't they? Okay, I've got another question here from Alexa Alonso, and this is, I think, is an interesting one. How would you go about introducing jazz to a younger audience? I'm 21, and everyone I know looks at me funny when they see my CD collection, partly because I still buy CDs, but mostly because it's all jazz. So it's maybe if you've got any suggestions of maybe an artist that younger people might like to look at, or Robert, have you got any ideas on this one?
Well, apart from the PRO, you mean?
Oh, sorry, yeah, obviously, once they've heard all the PRO back catalogue, I'm not sure that's the best way to attract a 21-year-old, but...
That reminds me of, I was sharing a house with a guy who used to be a sound engineer with the band many years ago, and we got burgled. And he had all his CDs stolen, but they were also like rock and pop CDs, and my entire jazz collection was left intact. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Because I remember growing up getting into jazz because there were big bands and jazz bands on primetime TV back in the day when I was growing up. Like, you know, the Les Dawson Show had the Sid Lawrence Orchestra, and you'd see Acapulco's band and Kenny Ball's band on various programs. And I don't know. To watch people playing instruments was just really inspiring for me. So I think there's no better way than seeing a live band, I think.
Yeah.
So, you know, get your dad or your uncle or whoever to take you to a gig.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if it's in a pub or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Just seeing live music and
yeah. Yeah, I think there's no substitute for
I
seeing
think the
live.
dance scene is very healthy. Sorry, if I was just going to say the whole sort of like swing dance thing, I think is a good phenomenon. Yeah, I like Lindy Hop and Balboa and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing for younger fans is there is a bit of a jazz scene now for younger people. You know, there is this kind of modern jazz, kind of a lot of African influences, and there's a band I like from Canada called Bad Bad Not Good, who are doing really kind of cool new kind of jazz stuff. And that's the thing with jazz. There's all these different genres within jazz, isn't there? There's the early stuff that we do, and then the kind of classic kind of 60s stuff that people know, and then there is more modern stuff as well. So there are quite a lot of ins, aren't there? I guess that's the other thing. That you'll find something you like, hopefully. No, but that was a good question, I thought. So one more question, I think, and then I think we'll call it a day. Oh, hold on a minute. We've got composer Dom here. He hasn't really asked a question there. What's he doing here? Simon, are you going for a beard equivalent to Dies a few years back? That's nice.
No.
Hello, okay. Let's finish with another question from Bob. Duncan, do you know the largest house that the PRO have played in?
The largest audience
Buckingham Palace
sang to was Sun City in America, in Arizona, I think it was, where we played to about 5,750 people. It was one of the, I mean, that was numbers wise, one of the biggest gigs we did. I mean, this is ignoring sort of live broadcasts that we used to do, which had perhaps a bigger audience, but that was the live, certainly the biggest audience we played for on an American trip in 1991 or 2. I can't remember now.
Okay. I better mention as well. Dom's
you've done bigger than that. There's a lot of the outdoor festivals in Spain as well. You've done bigger than that.
Oh yeah, that Poland one was big as well.
Yeah, I think you've trumped that a few times. We used to get about 4,000 people to Kew Gardens every time.
Yeah, I guess the outdoor ones were always
that's true.
Bigger numbers. Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned as well when we were talking about jazz and how to get into jazz. Our drummer Dom has a jazz label, so we better mention that, Jelly Mold. So you can check that out. Find Jelly Mold online, and loads of young and older artists apparently playing contemporary jazz. There you go. I'm not going to put that one up. Right. So I think we've come to the end of the question. Duncan, would you like to finish with any final words?
It would be remiss if I didn't mention the Kickstarter campaign just one more time. If anyone is thinking of donating towards making of the new Pasadena Roof Orchestra album, I'd be most grateful. We've just got, as I say, a few grand to gather together, and we've reached our target, which would be magnificent. If we could do that by the end of next week, I'd be a very happy bunny. So thank you, and thank you everyone that's so far donated. I mean, I'm banging on the drum about getting people to donate, and that's not forgetting the people that already have. Thank you so much, 162 very wonderful people. Thank you very much indeed. And if you know of anyone that might be able to influence to give us a few quid our way, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Duncan. And so all it remains for me to say is thank you, Simon and Robert and Duncan, for joining me. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you everyone for watching as well and providing questions. It's been really good fun. So have a lovely evening, and hope to see you all soon at a concert. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.